Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm back today on a Tuesday with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Going good. We dodged the bullet.
We did.
Yeah.
Oh, the weather?
Oh, the weather. Yeah.
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 I've been on so many calls with people. Oh, yeah, we had like several feet of snow.
Yeah.
Can't find our cars, but we had plenty of groceries.
We got about
Yeah,
that much snow here.
if even that.
Cold, but about that much snow. So,
Yeah, it's been pretty cold though.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was talking to some guys in Texas. They got a half inch of ice, and all these flights are canceled out of Dallas, and people not getting out. And, but I've talked to some people in Puerto Rico. Everything's fine there. I've talked to some people in the Philippines. Everything's fine there. I've
Good.
talked to some people in Mauritius. Everything seems fine there. India
Good.
seems fine. It's just about 2/3 of the U.S. has got ice
Yeah.
and snow. It's
Yeah.
really kind of funny. The
Yeah.
West Coast, LA is apparently fine.
Yeah. Oxford, Mississippi. There's a channel I watch where the guy out of Kentucky, I think he's Lexington, Kentucky or something like that, does a really good show, particularly when it comes storm season and they're all the guys chasing tornadoes and things. And Ryan Hall is his name. Y'all is the channel, and he was showing, the ice like that thick on trees down in Oxford, Mississippi, of all places.
Yeah, I remember when I lived in Memphis, we had a bad ice storm one time, and it took down, not just trees, it took down power lines, and so
Yeah,
there was
particularly.
hundreds of thousands without power. I think Nashville still has like 200,000 homes without power.
Probably. Wouldn't surprise me.
It's pretty shocking how much you really realize how different life is when, and it's eerie. It's eerie to go outside when there's no power because there's
There's
no
no
sound.
power. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no sounds going on. Nobody's driving around in an ice storm, and all of a sudden the world is just silent.
Yep.
It's very different. Uh, Anyways, let's
Moving
start out.
on.
Yeah. All right. Electric vehicles overtake petrol sales in Europe. Fully electric vehicles capture 22.6% of EU registrations, edging out petrol cars at 22.5. So we went from 22.6 versus 22.5. It's the first time ever.
A little bit, but that's a right direction.
Yeah. Gasoline electric hybrids, including plug-ins, were 44%. So they got a lot of hybrids in Europe. Wow. I mean, we're certainly not like that here in the U.S.
No, but it's headed. That's drifting that direction.
Yes. BYD registration surged 229% in December, while Tesla fell 20%, signaling a major power shift in the European market.
Yeah. Yep.
Those two numbers are probably very similar, too. A 20% drop and a 229% increase.
If you compare the two side by side, yeah.
All right. Tesla has managed to lose $15 billion in brand value in 25, a 36% brand value collapse in the Tesla brand. Now, this is kind of interesting because it says the brand value plummeted from 43 billion to 27 billion. I don't know how you measure brand value because the stock is certainly worth hundreds of billions.
Yeah, but there are analysts increasingly starting to say that it is a huge bubble. It's an investment bubble at this point, kind of along the lines of cryptocurrency too. So
yeah, they're saying that about AI. They're saying it about nuclear. They're saying it about a lot of things. I see that bubble thing thrown around all the time. And as I watched when our stock ticker was going across earlier, I noticed everything was red today. Yesterday, we did a nuclear stock update and everything was red, but I did some research on it and nothing actually happened in the market. It should have made all the stocks drop, but they all did. So, you just never know sometimes from day to day. The stock market's fickle. In fact,
that's definitely true. It's a well, we put that a slot machine, gambling casino. At times, you just don't know.
Yeah, well, I was trying to ask Perplexity what had gone on, and Perplexity said it was mainly institutions taking profits, and when they took profits, it lowered the price of the stocks.
Yeah.
So, that
Which also suggests that they don't see any growth. Take it now while you can. Yep, there goes the ticker. Red. Oh, there's a green. Lucid. There we go.
yeah, nice.
Forward up a little bit.
Yeah, some of those numbers though are a little lower than they were, so it looks like maybe we're getting some rebound here. Existing Tesla owners remain loyal, 92% retention, but they're unwilling to recommend the brand to friends and family, a critical problem for future growth.
Oh, well, it would be interesting. Why? Is because
Yeah.
they had experiences with it, or because what aligning yourself with Elon Musk's products say about you? I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Almost all the nuclear stocks are green today. They
Yeah.
were all red yesterday.
Yesterday? Okay.
Yeah. Go figure. You just never know where, stuff's going to go. I mean, Tesla's not doing anything. Rivian,
Rivian is down a little bit.
Rivian's dropping for no reason. Lucid's up a little bit. I mean, just a hair. Ford Motor. Well, it's good. Yesterday, everything was kind of down. All right. Let's see. The unsupervised robotaxis have been launched in Austin. They began offering fully unsupervised robotaxi rides on January 22nd, removing the in-car safety monitor. Reports suggest safety monitors are following in a trailing vehicle, indicating Tesla is proceeding carefully despite public claims.
And that would probably be the approach I would adopt if I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, well, okay, we'll pull the person out of the car, but we'll have them following closely behind. So,
yeah, that's kind of
a very pragmatic approach to this thing, apparently.
You'd thought they'd done it the opposite way. They would have had the robotaxi follow the guy in the actual car.
Yeah.
Musk claims robotaxis will be widespread in the U.S. by the end of 26, setting aggressive expectations that could make or break investor confidence.
Nah, he makes all kinds of predictions that he hasn't fulfilled. I'm still waiting for the Roadster 2.
Well, Musk's timelines are a little different than what he suggests.
Yeah, that's probably because of what he's smoking. I don't know.
All right. BYD's global domination strategy, 1.3 million overseas sales target. BYD aims for 1.3 million international sales in 26 after delivering 1.05 million in 25. It's 150% increase year over year. That's a pretty big increase. BYD tripled European sales in December with over 26,000 vehicles and now controls 70% of Mexico's EV market.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in our neighbor.
They're in our neighborhood, and they're aiming to go north of us.
And of course, BYD surpassed Tesla in total EV sales, not dollar volume, but supposedly BYD's brand value grew 23% to 17 billion. I don't know what this brand value is supposed to represent.
I don't either.
Yeah.
We've got any of our readers who are our listeners, viewers? Because
the companies are worth far more than that on the stock market. Let's see.
While we're speaking of BYD here, I just saw a posting over the weekend that Berkshire has sold out all of their remaining shares into BYD now.
Which is surprising, but I guess, they didn't want to be in, Chinese.
Whatever. I don't know. It's a volatile market for sure.
Let's see here. So we were saying the other day there was 30 new EV models. That number has grown to 32 new EV models for 26.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yes. These vehicles are designed to succeed without federal tax credits, with starting prices under 35,000, including the Nissan Leaf, the Hyundai Kona Electric, and the Chevy Equinox EV. And a flood of off-lease EVs will hit dealers in 26, driving down used EV prices significantly and creating a buyer's market.
That's how I got my first EV.
Mhm. All right.
And of course, that being said, we'll probably want to talk about the Bolt and the short life of the Bolt. You heard about that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, they're bringing back the Chevrolet Bolt by popular demand. The only problem is that they're only going to produce them for about 18 months. And then they're no longer going to manufacture them. From what I understand, they're manufacturing them down in Kansas City, just 200 miles south of us. And they're going to stop manufacturing them there and bring over a shift it over to a Buick. I think it's a Buick SUV that they're going to be manufacturing. Of course, the question now is that the end of the Bolt? Are they not going to make them anymore? Or are they planning on shifting production to another facility? Or are they just simply going to, come up with a brand new model? Because the current model is sort of a, rehash of the upcoming model is kind of a rehash of the current model, which I love. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. The Equinox is doing really well for them. So maybe they'll just
Maybe
decide.
they don't need it.
Pardon?
Maybe they don't need the Bolt.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Well,
saying. Maybe they just figured they don't need the car. So it's I've enjoyed having it and continue to enjoy having it. But yeah, let's see what happens. But short lived of it, and maybe they'll bring that brand name back in some other shape or form, maybe.
We'll bring it back as a hydrogen car.
Yeah. Well, no, they're not going to. Yeah, they're not going to do that. They've given that a spin. That's been basically going nowhere for any of the car makers.
Yeah, maybe it'll come with some kind of anti-gravity vehicle.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. All right. Global energy storage capacity this is globally, 100 gigawatts, with grid forming systems becoming essential for grid stability. The European Commission is expected to set harmonized grid forming requirements in 26. Previously, these systems cost 10 to 15% more, but are now approaching price parity. Grid forming inverters provide rapid frequency response and virtual inertia to create virtual synchronous machines, allowing grids to handle higher renewable penetration without traditional spinning reserves. Man, that was a mouthful. Not even sure what
Yeah.
that all meant. This came from Wood Mackenzie. Interesting, a lot of big words. Allowing grids to handle higher renewable penetration without traditional spinning reserves. Not sure what that means other than battery storage good.
Well, yeah, except that there's a difference, and I don't. This is a question for Mike, right? Because
Mhm.
because the electricity we generate typically is done by spinning electric, things, right?
Mhm.
And so those have a particular cycle, and that cycle has to match what's going into and around the grid. Whereas with battery storage, there is none of this. It's just there, right? And so you have to take and somehow match that straight shove of electrons, I guess, for want of a better term, to that cycle. And I think that's what they're dealing with. Electronically, I'm sure they're figuring it all out. Again, I'm not an electrician. I'm not an electrical engineer, and I haven't got a clue. I'm just speculating here at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Green tech investments hit a record $2.3 trillion last
Yeah.
year. Global clean energy investment hit 2.3 trillion in 25, a record high driven by strong spending on EVs, renewable power, grids, and climate tech finance. Despite trade and policy headwinds, all major sectors grew, with electrified transport leading at $893 billion.
Yep.
The Bloomberg New Energy Finance Report highlights resilient global transition as countries expand clean energy deployment and supply chain investment. You include this nice picture from Santiago, Chile.
Yeah, of the bus fleet. Yeah, 150
Yeah.
electric buses. Yep.
Yeah. And, it's interesting to see that this is going on in other countries. This is Santiago, Chile, or Chile. And these are all BYD.
These are all
buses.
BYD buses. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I had
to BYD.
A little backstory. There was another photo very similar to this that I had originally posted, that after I got to looking at it a little bit more closely and investigating the source of the photo, it was not actually the Santiago bus fleet, but it was in fact from 2018 in the Schiphol, I think that's correct, airport electric bus fleet in the Netherlands. And so I thought, wow. So Netherlands has been ahead of the curve on this thing since 2018, and now we've got Santiago, Chile, that is coming in and following their lead.
So 1.2 trillion of that poured into renewable energy and power grids. Most of it was strong growth in Asia and Europe. Despite huge amounts of capital flowing in, global renewable energy investment actually dropped 9.5% year over year in 25 as China's regulatory reform dampened activity in the world's largest market. And it's hard to fathom. So while China and India are the two great polluters, they also are, kind of leading in the implementation of green tech.
The interesting is I posted in the RS stream an article that speculates, will India become the very first, I think the term is electro state, so that their transport and their grid is going to be predominantly electric powered. Now, some of that obviously is going to be coming from coal generation. But there's a facility, a solar, I think it's the world's largest solar and renewable energy plant, maybe in Northwest India. It goes on for miles and miles. It's amazing.
That sounds like an Adani project.
Very possibly. Oh, yeah. then we have to talk about. I think you already highlighted that in one of your in the comment, where I wondered about this solar plant along the Nile.
Oh, I haven't talked about the Nile.
Oh, okay. So there was an article about Egypt. I think something like the effect where the U.S. had decided to basically drop producing renewable energy, solar panels and wind turbines and things like that because of the current crazy administration. That's being picked up by Egypt. Egypt? What? And it turns out that there are several plants, there's solar powered plants that are going into Egypt. And one of those happens to be located down near the Aswan Dam area in Upper Egypt. It's always confusing what's upper and lower. But in Upper Egypt, to the south of down near, Somali and that area. And so the photograph that it was using to illustrate it was this really neatly laid out thing with these beautiful panels decorated kind of, set up in sort of a diamond pattern. And I thought, wow, that is really cool. So I used that image, and then I got to think, wait a minute now, this doesn't look right. It looks like it's AI generated. And of course, when the article or the AI gave me a latitude and longitude of where this place was located. And so I thought, well, go on Google Earth and put in the latitude and longitude. Nothing like what that illustration was showing. It was the thing that it's huge. It's 3 miles across from one side to the other, and from north to south, it's 4 miles long. It's huge. It's like 17 square miles of solar.
Damn. That's
It's huge, but it's not this fancy. It's 10 miles to the west of the Nile River. It doesn't look anything fancy like what that illustration was. So I had to go in and correct it. But that was interesting, and found out there's some seriously sized solar in the nation of Egypt, which I think is fantastic with all the sun they've got. Absolutely.
solar is so much cheaper to do in the rest of the world than it is in the US. And so you see,
Yeah.
like Pakistan has lots of little microgrids because of solar, where they don't have regular access to electricity.
Right.
And so, people are getting solar panels, and people have cell phones that they charge off them. And
yeah, well, this is, I think part of this whole growth is because of cell phones. When you think about it, because there was no grid, how do you charge your cell phone? Right? Cell phone is for most of the world, that's your window to the world. You bank through it, you communicate with family through it, you get news, information, entertainment through it. But if you don't have any electricity to charge it, if there's no grid, if there's no outlet near you, how do you do that? And so that began to transpire into building, as you say, microgrids to just simply charge phones.
Right.
And so I think the one kind of led to the other. So we have phone networks in many of these countries that are not landline based. They didn't have to lay lines and cables and things like that. It's all it's all wireless cell phone type stuff. And of course, then that led to the development of these microgrids that give people lights at night and power for their phones.
So the Asia Pacific region, led by China, India, and Japan, was responsible for about half of all global spending on energy. But I mean, to be realistic, the Asia Pacific region, Asia has what? Almost half the world's population?
Oh, yeah, easily. Between India and China. Yeah.
And Indonesia.
Yep.
It's all pretty big. The EU invested $455 billion. That was 18% increase. Growth was slower in the US, where the government dialed back government support for clean tech and threw up roadblocks to renewable energy deployment. The US still saw $378 billion in green investment, up 3.5% from 2024. So despite all that, it was still up from the year before.
Yeah, well, there's some people that are still thinking straight.
All right. Let's see. Let's talk about this Stop Chasing Green Jet Fuel article that you highlighted.
Yeah.
So, I'm familiar with creating, so people take cooking oils and agricultural waste to make
diesel fuel.
Yeah, and they do that instead of using petrol, right?
Right.
But you're still making, they call it sustainable aviation fuel,
right.
SAF.
SAF.
Yeah. And but it's designed to work with existing aircraft engines. There are some issues I know where it can gum up some stuff. It's not exactly a perfect replacement, but I know in the airline industry, they'll buy all of that because they get carbon credits for using it.
Mm-hmm. And there are flights that are being made or have been made where they were used. I don't think it was completely 100% SAF, but it was a blend. And I think Virgin Atlantic has done that in Europe, and I think there's even been experimentation. I think what the U.S. Naval Aviation has done has done some experimentation with it. The problem is that the amount of energy, the amount of fuel that is required to maintain the current level of commercial aviation can nowhere begin to meet the needs with crops, basically. So you'd be turning all of these crops, particularly soybeans, which are heavy in our canolas, things like that, and turning those into a jet fuel. It just can't do it. There's not enough land. There's not enough oil that's generated to and still feed the world population. I mean, that's what the article basically boils down to, is if we're going to take this land out of production, what are we going to feed ourselves with? Because it's huge. So what the suggestion is let's take all this millions of tons of plastic waste that we generate. I mean, I got a trash can and half that thing is plastic. Not that, well, the trash can is plastic, the bag is plastic, but most of the stuff that ends up going in there is plastic packaging that we get in there. That is a huge problem, but that's potentially long chain hydrocarbons that could be reprocessed and turned into a jet fuel. Again, not enough. Given our current technology and current consumption rates, there's not enough of that either to be able to meet our needs. So I think we're going to have to start rethinking about, either the jets have to really become energy efficient, and there's movement in that direction, certainly, or we're going to have to figure out how the aliens are powering their spacecraft.
There we go. Anti-gravity.
Anti-gravity.
Yeah. Well, you've got two things. So one, this article was talking a lot about, planting crops to make biofuel into SAF. And then on the flip side, I see people in the waste to energy space, like you were talking about the plastics and other stuff, but they're gasifying the trash. Right. They can kind of turn that into any kind of fuel. They can turn it into LNG. Yeah. They can turn it into aviation fuel. I'm dealing with some guys that are trying to sell it as diesel. And the thing is, it's actually a challenge in selling it as diesel, is because renewable or biodiesel, which comes from the plant-based stuff, right, has issues with trucks. It's not 100% clean. And the renewable, but they call it renewable diesel when it comes from waste to energy, and it doesn't have those issues.
Right, because whereas the aren't really long chain hydrocarbons, as I understand it. You can make it, because you can take cooking oil, put it in a diesel engine. In fact, that's what come on now. Well, I think, was his name Diesel? Anyway, the German inventor of the diesel engine, that's what he was running. He was running vegetable oil, I think it was peanut oil or something, in his engine. And then, of course, we began to find more and more of the petroleum, and that could be refined into something that the engine found more acceptable. But originally, they were using vegetable oil to run diesel engines. So you can do that. I had a friend of mine who was living, he was down in Louisiana, I think, and he drove up to Omaha in a truck, a diesel-powered truck. I think it was a Ram something or another. Came up here on, I think it was French fry. Oh, no, it was, I think, a processed catfish oil or something like that. And he said, come out and smell my exhaust. And it smelled like McDonald's French fries.
Maybe it's peanut oil. I don't know.
Yeah. So you can use that, and people do that, but it's still, given the amount of, I think in the article, the editor's exclusive that I wrote in this, it talks about the amount of oil that we need. I'm going to go down and take a look at it, just refresh my own memory. Yep, punch that. And I think it's something like, there we go. Global aviation burns roughly 100 to 110 billion gallons of jet fuel every year. That's equal to 7 million barrels a day.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And so we're going to be facing some choices here. Either we all start slow travel, by train, by probably train be the most efficient way, or by dirigible. There's work being done on that, actually. Or we just simply get content with watching other people take these adventures on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we think there's going to be a return of Zeppelins for
No,
transport?
it won't be. No, you're not going to use hydrogen. We learned that
Yeah.
lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And helium is an increasingly rare, when you
Scarce.
talk about rare elements, helium is one of those rare elements.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think you can make helium with nuclear fission.
Okay, so you use helium in a high temperature gas reactor to for cooling purposes instead of using water.
Right,
Okay, helium can't become radioactive.
right.
Now, you're probably right. I think you can make helium from nuclear fission somehow,
Yeah.
but it's not something I've ever investigated.
I don't know if it's fusion or I think it's fusion, isn't it?
Not 100%. It
Okay.
is
In
kind
this,
of weird that
yeah,
the two types of nuclear technology, fission and fusion, both create things that the other one needs.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you're maybe right about the helium and fusion because fission produces the tritium that's needed for fusion. And I think you're right about fusion helps create hydrogen or helium, which is needed for the HTGR type reactor. Not needed
yeah,
for all reactors.
yeah,
Most reactors are water cooled.
yeah,
So, um, but the new technology is helium cooled.
yeah.
But there will be a limit to how much helium there is.
Yeah, that's the
So,
problem. It's there and it's locked up generally with deep oil wells and things of that nature. And so yeah. Anyway,
all right. So moving on, Vermont and New York embrace nuclear energy revival. Vermont's Governor Phil Scott supports legislation to revive nuclear energy in Vermont in 2026, potentially reversing the state's nuclear phase out. New York has approved extending subsidies for upstate nuclear power plants through 2049, ensuring grid reliability and clean baseload power. I guess they don't want to rely on Quebec. Um, Grid reliability focus. Both states recognize nuclear as essential for maintaining grid stability while adding intermittent renewables, a critical lesson for other states. Let's see. Oh, here's kind of an interesting article. The Western auto industry crisis, how the West lost to China.
yeah, mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a leadership vacuum. Western automakers have surrendered EV leadership to Chinese companies through complacency, slow innovation, and resistance to electrification. Supply chain dominance. China controls 80% of global EV battery production and the entire rare earth supply chain, giving them insurmountable cost advantages. The wake up call may be too late. By the time Western automakers took EVs seriously, Chinese brands had 10 plus years of experience and economies of scale that are now nearly impossible to overcome.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we've been seeing this pretty steadily here. Let's see if we got anything else today.
Well, we have to talk about Tesla killing the autopilot.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so what has happened is just out of the blue, Tesla has announced that they're no longer going to support autopilot. And if you want uh, full, self-driving capability, you're going to have to pay them a monthly subscription of I think it's $99. Although I think there's a special deal like 45 or something like that dollars for a limited time, I gather. But yeah, they're going to completely. You want the full self-driving or whatever it's called these days? You have to buy it on a subscription basis, or I think there's an alternative where you can get it for $8,000.
Well, it was 10 to 12.
Yeah. But basically, the folks that had the ability, when you bought a Tesla, you could turn on and have it keep lane changing or whatever it does. That's apparently no longer available now.
Let's see. You have an article about the White House signaling a conditional opening for Chinese EV makers.
That was a speech that the gentleman who currently occupies the Oval Office um, gave a speech in Detroit a couple weeks ago and basically said that if the Chinese met these requirements, they had to be, they had to be manufactured. All their manufacturing had to be done in the United States and all on various restrictions. That he would consider allowing that to happen.
If they made them in the U.S.
If they made them in the U.S., yeah. And at the same time, the Carney government up in Canada has opened discussions with China to reduce their own tariff on Chinese automobiles, which I think we discussed that last week. That would possibly open the door for at least our Canadian brothers to the north to be able to obviously get Volvos and BYD, Neos and Teslas even, although they can get them from the U.S. if they. So I don't know what's happening there, but yeah, they're slowly but surely they're getting encroaching, and at some point we're going to see cars. We probably won't see them for $11,000. The BYD Seal or Seagull or whatever. We won't see them for that, but we'll certainly see them I would imagine, probably in the low 20s.
Yeah. Well, they'll be cheap. They'll be cheap. I mean, the whole Canada thing, they're limiting it for 49,000 vehicles a year.
Right.
But still, it's a considerable amount.
But at the same time, then the Oval Office occupant, who I am referring to increasingly as SOM, S-O-M, yeah, I won't go into why I call it, but anyway, just saying if Canada does a deal with the Chinese, he's going to increase the tariffs on Canadian goods by 100%.
Well, you just never know.
You never know
where that's going to go. He likes throwing the tariffs around, that's for sure. I mean, I look at what he did with tariffs last year on a lot of Chinese goods, and then they reversed it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's interesting to kind of see, but it's hard to figure out what you're going to manufacture when that stuff keeps bouncing around.
Well, how can you be a manufacturer? How can you even be an importer? And try to plan for, a year or 2 years in advance, and you haven't, or longer, and you haven't a clue where the policy is going to be. I mean, it's just crazy, totally destabilizing. In fact, you're starting to see more and more headlines about the fact that, one discussion that I was listening to, that the U.S. is now becoming on the verge of becoming a pariah nation because of what we are doing to the world order. So, I don't know. I'm not happy with what's going on.
Well, anyways, that's all of our stories for today. So
positive note.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, for anybody wondering, I have an eye infection, and so one of my eyes looks a little jacked up right now.
Now, we thought about having him wear a patch like a pirate, but then, that might be a little too distracting. So
there we go. Anyways, folks, I'll be back tomorrow with Mike, and appreciate everybody tuning in and watching. Have a great day.